What is up, YouTube? HPJ here, and I'm coming at you guys because it is time to talk Sky Striker. With the changes to the Forbidden Limited list, Sky Striker is making its appearance, of course, on the channel. And I don't. With Sky Striker, I'm trying to find a middle. It's a good deck, don't get me wrong, but it has a lot of pieces that need some help, and especially considering the fact that I'm not a big fan of a certain particular card in a lot of decks, and unfortunately, this happens to be the deck that I feel kind of hits the middle with that particular card. But we'll go into it more when I talk about the deck's overall construction and everything. So, why don't we get started with the list itself? I'm running 3 copies of the lovely Sky Striker Ace Ray, only 1 copy of Sky Striker Ace Rose, and then 2 copies of Summoner Monk, 3 copies of Ash Blossom Joyous Spring, and then 3 copies of Effect Failure. For the spell cards, and this is a long list of spells, 3 copies of Widow Anchor, 2 copies of Shark Cannon, 2 copies of Area Zero, 2 copies of Jamming Wave, 2 copies of Afterburner, then 1 copy of Multi-Roll, and 1 copy of Hornet Drone. For the regular spells, 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet, 2 copies of Mystic Mind, 2 copies of Pot of Desires, 1 copy each of Reinforcement of the Army, Mind Control, Upstart Goblin, Set Rotation, and Terraforming. So that is all the spells. Then for the trap cards, a full set of Infinity Impermanence. For the extra deck, 3 copies of Sky Striker Ace Shizuku, 3 copies of Sky Striker Ace Kigari, 2 copies of Sky Striker Ace Hayate, 2 copies of Sky Striker Ace Seki, 1 copy of Hita the Flame Charmer Ablaze, 1 copy of Celine the Queen of Master Magician, 1 copy of SS Code Talker, 1 copy of Tapologic Zero Boros, and 1 copy of Tapologic Bomber Dragon. So that's pretty much it for the main and the extra. Now, the overall thing about this deck is one of the biggest assets to it is that it now has 3 copies of Widow Anchor. It's not the engaged that people wanted, which at this point, the only way they can get back engaged is if, they do some wording on engage. Like, it would have to be some weird setup to where engage will only work with Sky Striker, but have some more backdraws to it. And the thing about it is I think a lot of people have said this, because of how splashable certain things are in Sky Striker, overall, that's the only reason why Engage got banned, and then why it's not coming off the list. Because without Engage, the deck's still viable. It's not as strong as it used to be. And because of what you can do with Engage, Kagari, Array, or Rose, and just the overall setup, yeah, that card's not coming off the list in TCG anytime soon. I'm still shocked it's not banned in OCG. But anyway, for the most part here, let's just focus on what we have out. So, Sky Striker Ace Ray is going to be one of your biggest key components, because the factor that she can trade herself in to summon the Sky Striker Ace monster from your extra deck. It helps out tremendously, especially when you want to put pressure on your opponent. You can go into Shizuku, you can go into Kagari, you can trigger off Shizuku and Kagari, you can go into Zeka. You just have a lot of really easy things to drop onto the board. Now, as easy as Ray is, Rose is kind of the redheaded stepchild. And that's primarily because Rose isn't bad, but she ain't that good. And then Rose has her own stiff of problems. Rose has a great negation attached to her, but Rose isn't as float as Ray. And you can still use her to go get Kagari, Shizuku, and all of them, but Rose is just, she's here. She's not terribly bad. It's just she's not terribly good either. So she just kind of stands there. Then there's Monk. Most people are never running Monk. I'm running Monk because I like the setup Monk can give. Monk can drop a spell, go get Ray, and put her onto the board. Monk can drop a spell and go get Rose. So that's at least two monsters. There's Zeki. He is spellcaster. Celine. He is just an extension that can extend things onto the field. And that's kind of where people stand with Monk sometimes, is Monk's ability to be an extender. And it's crazy that even in a deck like this, Monk still has some playability, some usefulness to it. And that Monk hasn't really gone anywhere. It's just Monk was more so focused on link summoning, extending plays, or synchros, exceeds, and all the in between. That's pretty much where he stood. It's nice to see him get some type of show, and I really did want to, bring Monk out to have that experience to be shown. Next up is the Triple Ash Blossoms in the Beck Veiler. Of course, I said sequential hand traps. And for the funny thing about it is Veiler is a little more useful is more useful than she was before. And now that's extending into the fact that we have Celine who can pick Veiler up, and then Veiler can help her go into Excess Code Talker. Or we can go into Ouroboros, so we can go into Zero Boro, so we can go into Barrel Sword. So you have that there. Then we have the, stop cards from getting sent from the deck to the grave, adding cards from the deck to the hand, and all this also something from the deck thanks to Ash Blossom. So yeah, you got a lot of your influence here, and plus there's only one call by the grave now, so that does lead to playability. If you wanted to add some more hand traps, you possibly can with that, with Ghost Ogres, Nibiru's, and stuff like that. For the spell cards, Triple Widow Anchor to set up your control in combination with Shark Cannon, because you can take your opponent's monsters, and it helps you extend into your bigger monsters. Then we have the Area Zero, the field spell. This is pretty much just to help you thin out your deck or to get to Ray or Rose as soon as possible to get into your extra deck monsters. Or to set up some more combo plays to keep your opponent at bay or take control of the board. Then both of Jamming Wave and Afterburner just to help clear out some things. You can run Cosmic Cyclone if that's a better option for you. I was trying to fit Cyclones in here. I really did try. But yeah, Cyclone, don't leave that out. It's just that a lot of cards had to double for particular cards. See, cards that couldn't double, unfortunately, were Hornet Drone and Multi-Roll, just because of how broken both of them are and how much of an extension, how deadly they are when they were at multiples as well. Then we got Double Pot of Desires. I know most people probably run 3 Pot of Desires. I'm going to be honest. I still trying to make a build that doesn't have to rely on desires. And it's coming out well, but for right now, the 2 Pot of Desires has to at least. Desires for most people work in terms of it thins out the deck so you don't have to really wait for things. But also at the same time, that's a 9 for a 2. No, that's a 10 for a 2, and you better hope the 2 is beneficial. Because other than that, honestly, I don't have any real cares for Pot of Desires in this deck at all. And it's a lot of decks that I don't think need Desires. It's kind of be one of them. Because you do have to run multiple cards. And some of your bigger resources are at once. So, yeah, it is just one of those things where it's like, do I run the Desires? Do I not run the Desires? Can I still run Pot of Avarice? Do I need Pot of Avarice? It's like, I don't know. It's really much in the middle. Then we got the Mystic Mind, of course, for that variation of control. And then just a lot of one-ups itself, Mind Control, to take your opponent's monsters and link into crazy things. You have Rhoda to search for Ray or Rose. You have set rotation to put both of the field spells onto the board and really lock your opponent out of their field spells. Upside Island for draw power, terraforming to search for your own card. And mind control just to be mind control. Mind control is really good in some aspects because if you combine mind control, quick play, your shark cannon, and your widow anchor, that's at least 3 monsters. And all you really have to do is drop one, and then bam, there you go. You got a Ouroboros, or you got a Topologic. So yeah, some setups there. Or you can get or you can get an arch. You can get anything thanks to mind control. That's why it's at 1 again, because mind control is so broken. Really is. Infinity Impermeous is the last card, and this is another Veiler in case you go first and your opponent. No, it says your opponent's going first and you're going second, and you just want the additional support there. So, that's it for the main. Then going into the extra, the 3 copies of Suzuku and Kagari. These are pretty much your star pupils. Kagari returning your Sky Striker cards to your hand. Shizuku searching for them as long as there's none in the grave. As long as they're different from the ones that are in the graveyard. Hayate to set up the grave, and she can direct attack, so that sets up for Kagari, and then Kagari can go to Shizuku. Then you have Zeki, who when she's summoned, she can negate face-up monsters on the field. No, she can banish a face-up monster on the field, and then you can target another card you control, and then it gains. This card will gain life attack, and then you send the other card to the graveyard. So you can send a card your opponent has. No, you send one of your cards, like a little deck draw, and then be like, okay, well, I'm gonna set this, summon Zeki, send this graveyard with Zeki's effect, and then she could possibly or potentially roll some stuff over. So you may never know. Then pretty much for the rest of it, if I'm not missing anything. No, okay, I'm not missing anything because I thought I was forgetting. I forget Forbidden Droplets. I think I did. Oops. Okay, well, before I go into the rest of the extra deck, Forbidden Droplets is in here because people like this card. If you can afford it, go for it. Alright, then we go back to the extra deck. There's Hita. Hita is pretty much here to combo with against fire. You can swap her in for Winnie or Asuwa or Erika. And then you got Celine. Celine can pick up your spellcaster and then go into Access Code Talker or Zero Ouroboros or Topologic Bomber Dragon. And, the Link Climb can be easily expendable if you have the expendable resources, and then go from there, which isn't too hard in most cases because look at everything we have: the shark cannons, the widow anchors, the mind control. Like, you have a great lineup of things to help you win the game, and then take your opponent's losses and do what you want to with them. Access Code Talker for removal and Big Beater. Massive removal thanks to Zeroboros, who can also come back after using this effect on himself. And then Topologic Bomber Dragon, who just says screw anything that comes to the field, any monster that comes to the field, because if something starts summoned to anywhere he points to, he blows it up. And then he's the only one that can attack, which is fine because, look, 3k attacker, he inflicts damage to your opponent based on the original attack of the monster he destroys, and anything that gets summoned to where he's pointing to, blow up everything else onto the field. So, yeah, there's a lot of crazy things with us, but that pretty much wraps it up. The only thing that I have to talk about is just the cards on the side, and those are just, some things if you want to swap them out. If you want to run Nibiru just to deal with combos, Duster to deal with heavy back row, Triple T if you're not filling the pot of the pot of desires, Avarice if it's for the same reason, or you want to combo both of them off, especially if you want to get your hand traps back. And then there can be only one. It's a good alternative for Striker because they have a lot of things that can easily out. And this is an old card that used to be in Striker because of how flexible it was, and a great utility card for them as well. So that's that's pretty much it for the deck profile, and I hope you guys do enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will catch you all next time. HBJ signing out, and if you want to hit me up for more, those social media links are in the description below. Alright, see you next time.